So what's up people, and welcome to another Battle Angel Alita Last Order video. So yeah, this is the Last Order video, and so I will be going into the topics in that series itself. And for people who have read the series, what I'll talk about today isn't particularly revealing. It's not going to go into any philosophy or the creative writing aspects or any of that. It's stuff that if you've read the comic, you already know about. But I am going to list certain things with regards to a specific theme that comes out in that comic. And the theme, of course, is the title of this video, 10 Points Regarding Real Alita. Now, before I begin, I do want to talk about a specific YouTube video. This isn't particularly anything with regards to the topic of my video, but it's a video that I found recently which I enjoyed very much. And since I already made Alita YouTuber video, and I probably won't make one for a while, I just wanted to bring it out here so that it doesn't get lost. Now, this is a video by a YouTuber called SluggyTinky21. And it was very enjoyable. I liked it a lot. So thank you very much, SluggyTinky21. It's titled Alita Short, Little Alita's Big Trouble. And this was a lot of fun. This was a really cute video. It's an animation video, and it basically revolves around the three Alitas. The three Alitas that come out as the Funko Pop figures, you know, the doll body Alita, the motorball Alita, and of course the Berserker body Alita. And basically the animation is what would happen if you let those three Alitas loose in an area full of chocolate. And I really had a lot of fun watching this video. It's really, really cute. And so I hope SluggyTinky21 continues to make these three Alita videos. They're a lot of fun to watch. This chocolate one was great. I hope he does one where the three Alitas go to watch Motorball. And for example, one of the contenders flies out and falls into the audience area and gets up and starts acting tough and saying, "Get out of my way," right at the three Alitas, and the three Alitas beat the crap out of him. You know, stuff like that, right? You know, three Alitas doing various different things in life, and that will be a hilarious thing to watch. You know, the three Alitas all decide to go out with Hugo, and they fight each other over who gets Hugo, and Hugo gets beat up, you know, being pulled apart by the three Alitas. That would be a lot of fun to watch as well. So yeah, I hope Sluggy Tinky continues with this three Alita series. And thank you very much for making the video. And I will leave the link to that video in the description section of this video. Okay, so back to the topic at hand. Yeah, before I begin, my short spoiler alert. If you have not read to the end of Last Order, and if you don't want to be spoiled, then I suggest you do not watch this video, because it does go over one of the key theme aspects of that story. And I think it's important enough that you go in blind if you're going to read the comic. And so that is my short spoiler alert. And as always, please watch at your discretion. Okay, so at this point, I am assuming that whoever is still watching has already read to the end of Last Order or really doesn't care about being spoiled. And so I will talk about this. So what is the real Alita? Well, as you know, by the end of Last Order, there are two Alitas. One is typically called the Brain Alita, the original series Alita. You could even call her the movie Alita. In this particular video, I will call her the real Alita. And then there is the other Alita, which I will call the other Alita, right? The brain chip Alita, the Last Order Alita, whatever you want to call it. The Alita that actually goes through the entire story of Battle Angel Alita Last Order. And of course, by the end of Last Order, we do have that scene that I'm showing as my background for this video, right? Where real Alita gets up and now has a human body and meets with Figure 4 again. And it is the other Alita who moves forward to Mars Chronicle. Okay, so that's clarifies what the real Alita is. And so what I want to talk about are 10 points that are specific to this real Alita. We traveled through Last Order with the other Alita, and we see just a small bit of the real Alita at the very end of the story, and because of that, we don't really get a chance to really think about what happened to the real Alita. So I do want to bring up some points. So 10 points, not in any specific order, and these are just points that I came up off the top of my head, and there are many other points that you probably can come up with as well. Okay, so the first one. The real Alita is not a Panzerkunstmaster. By the time we get to the end of Last Order, Alita has gotten to the point where not only is she a master, she has surpassed her original Yoko form. And we know that because of the fact that Kairula Sanguis compares the Last Order Alita to the original Yoko. And she kind of classifies her as a Horrorkrieger. I'm sorry about the pronunciation. A high warrior, which is one rank below master. And so Yoko, from what it seems like, was slightly below master. I would call a master junior. And Alita, around the time she first meets Kairula Sanguis, is also at that level. And by the end of Last Order, she has become even stronger. And I would say that she has gone past the master's level. But the real Alita doesn't even come close, because the real Alita stops at the few chapters before we get to the end of the original series. And at that point, her fighting capabilities are nowhere near what the other Alita is by the end of Last Order. And we get to see some idea of this through the Zot Championship. If you recall, the real Alita's fighting capabilities were around the order of the ARs. Maybe slightly higher, maybe slightly lower. You can make an argument. But it's around the order of the ARs. Now, one of the strongest ARs at that time, because she defeated the majority of the ARs, was AR number 6. And what you find is that by the beginning of Last Order, AR number 6 has become Zex. Now, Zex has trained himself to be so much stronger than the original AR number 6. And the AR number 6 was one of the strongest of all the ARs who were comparable to the real Alita when she went into limbo. And so we look at Zex at the beginning of Last Order, and by the time we get to the Zot Championship, he has become even stronger. So that Zex has become a stronger version of himself. And that Zex was the one that got destroyed by Kusang, the deputy commander of the Stellar Nursery Society. And not only was he defeated by Kusang, she literally toyed with him and overwhelmed him completely. And then the next round, Alita came in, and within like 15 seconds, Alita literally destroyed Kusang. It was maybe not even that. It was probably within about 5 seconds or so. And that was the Alita that was at the beginning of the Zot Championship, which eventually was classified as a Horrorkrieger. And so if that Alita, which easily defeated Kusang, who easily defeated Zex, who was a much stronger version of the Zex that was in the beginning of the comic, and Zex at the beginning of the comic was a stronger version of AR number 6, which was the strongest ARs who were comparable with the real Alita, then real Alita doesn't even come close to the Horrorkrieger level. So since she was shut down at that point and only resurrected at the very end of the story, her Panzerkunst should not be more advanced than what she had at that time. And so, yes, the real Alita is not a Panzerkunstmaster. And in fact, since she is now a humanoid, she is significantly weaker than even the Alita that came out at the end of the original series. There may be a possibility that physically she may even be weaker than Figure 4, although skill-wise she's probably pretty high. This is arguable because of the fact that Merlin may have been compassionate enough that when he resurrected her as a human, he resurrected her as an enhanced human, possibly enhancing her with nanomachines or whatever. Yukito Kishiro can always write that argument in. But she is definitely nowhere near the power of the Alita at the end of the original series, who is not even close to the Alita that was classified as a Horrorkrieger. Okay, so the real Alita is not a Panzerkunstmaster. Next, the real Alita originally was in the Last Order Alita's body. So we see that in the beginning of Last Order, when Destinova is resurrecting Alita. During that resurrection scene, you actually see that the brain is also resurrected, and the brain is incorporated into that body. And it goes through that discussion that Destinova is having and how he's fascinated by the brain. And so he wants to resurrect Alita. And of course, the next thing you know, Alita wakes up and starts the series of Last Order. But what we find out later on is by the time she wakes up, it is the other Alita, the brain chip Alita. Which means that somewhere along the way, Destinova had a change of heart. Originally, he wanted to resurrect Alita as that Alita, right? The one that will eventually go through Last Order will be the real Alita. But somewhere along the way, after he made that body and resurrected Alita, I guess he got the idea, hey, maybe we should switch minds. And he decided to swap out the brain with a brain chip. So originally, Alita started out with the real Alita being designed in and resurrected as the one that will go through Last Order. It is why most of the readers, when they got through this, believed that that was the real Alita going through, because you saw that sequence of operations going on in the beginning that made you believe that this was the real Alita going through. Okay, so yeah, Destinova originally intended to have the real Alita go through the Last Order adventure. Okay, so number 3. Alita did not save the world. She did not save the lunar colonies. She did not save Earth. She did not save Iron City. Basically, she stopped right at the point where she defeated one of the Destinovas and then became a casualty. In the original series, of course, it is that real Alita that moves forward, gets resurrected again in Zala, and it's the real Alita that saves Earth from the falling space elevator. But in Last Order, since that switch happened, all of the points of overwhelming Embody, stopping the terraforming project that will destroy Iron City, saving the lunar colonies, and basically saving humanity from all of the strange ideas that Aga Embody had, that was done by the other Alita. So we think of Alita as the one that eventually saves Earth. But in the Last Order series, it's not the real Alita. It's not the Alita in the original series, and of course, it's not the Alita in the movie. So, yeah, that's number 3. Number 4, the real Alita doesn't have a clue who Erica is. She has no idea. At least from what we know, she has no idea. Because all of the memory that came back during the Last Order incident, right? And it happened during a time when Alita was starting to imagine this personification of a guilty feeling, which she called Colonel Payne. And through Colonel Payne, she started having the images of what happened during her childhood. In fact, Last Order starts with memories of her childhood. But by that time, of course, it is the other Alita that is moving forward. Now, there could be a possibility that when Alita got taken down, by Destinova, during that resurrection, she may have received her memory back, because we do see at the end of the original series, between her being taken down by Destinova and her being resurrected by Destinova up in Zalem, there is that dream sequence of her past and her image as Yoko. And so there is a possibility that that may have happened as well during the resurrection in Last Order, but we do not know. From everything that we understand with Last Order, there is not a clue that indicates that the real Alita has had any of her memory come back. All of the psychological barriers that she overcomes in the original series comes from an abstract characteristic of herself, not related to the memories of her past. So whether she understands them or not, as the real Alita, is really hard to tell, but there is a good possibility that she has no idea who Erika is, she has no idea who Gelda is, even after she has been resurrected, and so her past is still blank. Okay, number 5. Alita has no clue what the Fata Morgana is, and she does not know who Merlin or Zeus is. I mean, this is pretty obvious, right? All of those actions were done by the other Alita. And so we see this progression and this character growth as she keeps on going. She receives the responsibilities of the fate of the world and takes action to it to go and eventually save Earth and humanity, right? And all of that gets triggered by the Fata Morgana, which is received by Kyrula Sandwich. But by that time, of course, it is the other Alita. And so the real Alita has no idea who Merlin is, has no idea who Zeus is. In fact, if Merlin came up after the real Alita got resurrected and saw how she was doing, the real Alita would look at him and go, "Who the heck are you?" And so none of that progression that she had in Last Order relates to the real Alita. And because she has no memory of Erika or Gelda or even Yoko, there was never a confrontation and a coming together of the two personalities, Alita and Yoko, that you saw in Last Order. She is still basically the memory lost Alita that you saw in the original series. Or at least a good possibility is that. Okay, number 6. Alita still wants to kill Destinova. Yes, the new Alita, the other Alita, also has a hatred for Destinova because he went and killed her in Last Order. But there was a point where Alita started understanding some ideas about Destinova, and for a while teamed with Destinova. It's not the persona that she goes after, but the ideologies that that person has. The other Alita has experienced the two sides of Destinova, or the multiple sides of Destinova, that she understands that if Destinova could somehow go back to being good, then the other Alita has no gripes and would be able to somewhat work with him as she's doing now, right? Teaming up with Destinova during Last Order. And of course, we get to see some of that in Mars Chronicle as well. Sorry for the spoilers. But the original Alita, the real Alita, of course, the last thing she remembers is being blown up. And she may not know that it was Destinova that killed her, so there may not be aggression. But the last thing that she remembers of Destinova is her killing Destinova because it was absolutely important to take down that character. That character was so much gone that she knew he needed to go down. So if that Alita found out that Destinova is still alive, she may move forward to try to kill him again, although she has lost the strength to be able to do so. So yes, the real Alita may still want to kill Destinova. Number 7. The real Alita thinks Lu is Lu. As you know, the original Lu is gone. And by the time we get to the end of Last Order, there is another Lu Collins. But that Lu Collins was a resurrection from the brain that was stored in the Melchizedek. And so not only does Lu Collins forget about Alita, but Alita doesn't know that that Lu Collins is not the Lu Collins that she endeared. And this may be very troublesome for Alita, because we know the other Alita, the entire Last Order series was based on her one action, I gotta save Lu Collins. She was so close to Lu Collins that she literally turned the entire civilization of Earth and Ladder upside down to be able to bring her back. And so if there is that much closeness in Alita, then you probably expect that to be as well in the real Alita. And when real Alita doesn't know that Lu Collins has died and meets with Lu Collins, she will probably be very happy and try to come back and meet with her, finally face to face, only to be devastated that that Lu Collins is not her Lu Collins. So the real Alita continues to think that Lu is still Lu. And that's going to be a tough realization that she will probably find out off topic in the story. Okay, number 8. The real Alita has no beef with Aga and Body, or Ladder, or any of that. She has no idea what that is. In fact, when she wakes up, she'll be extremely surprised that the abstract image of whatever she needed to do to defeat Zalem has already been defeated by the other Alita. But because she never got a chance to go up to Zalem and then to Jeru to find out who exactly was the kingpin behind a lot of the things that she could only see as an abstract image when she was in Iron City or in the Badlands, she knew she had to defeat somebody who was overseeing this, but she had no idea who it was. The only Alita who met that kingpin was the other Alita. So when Alita gets resurrected, she might feel that I need to go out to save the world, only to find out that that has already been done and the evil has been defeated, and she has no idea who even the evil is, even after her resurrection. Somebody might tell her, but considering the fact that the characters who are currently close to her are Figure 4 and Daisuke Ito, neither one of them knowing who Aga and Body is, she may not find out unless she goes and somehow figures out who Merlin is and gets the entire information from him. So yeah, all of that entire adventure in Last Order may not ever be understood by the real Alita. Okay, so number 9. The real Alita did not win the Zot Championship. Now this is relatively obvious because, as you know, by that time we all find out that it's the other Alita. But in the back of our heads, we always have a difficulty discerning the two Alitas. And what's interesting is during the finale of the Zot Championship, they televised that image to the residents of Iron City, understanding that the fate of Iron City will depend on whether Alita will be able to win the Zot Championship. And so there is this big cheering, and you get a good reminiscing and a feel good seeing a lot of the old characters come back to see Alita compete up in Jeru and to support her. Characters such as Ajikari and Vector and Radio Chaos and Koyomi even. But what you find out, of course, is they have no idea that ain't her, right? That ain't the Alita that was associated with them during the original series. In fact, that girl that they're cheering on never physically really met with any of them, because all of that memory It's just information that was downloaded to that brain chip before that character was even created. That character never existed until Destinova decided to switch the brain with the brain chip, and that's when the other Alita basically was born. So all of these people cheering on to her is not really her. And that feel good that you get saying, oh wow, look at Ajikari, look at Vector, look at Radio Chaos. It's really nice to see them again and to see them cheer on their girl. Well, it's not their girl that they're cheering on. And in fact, of course, you see Daisuke Ito and Figure 4 and Koyomi and Radio Chaos all go up to Jiru, triggered by that incident where they see Alita fighting in Zot, and that makes them want to go up. But it's, to some extent, a false reason, because that ain't Alita. And the Alita that they eventually do meet when they get to Jiru isn't even the one that won the Zot championship, right? And they have no idea about that unless somebody has already told them by that time. And so we know that Daisuke Ito knows, because at the end of the Last Order, he is worried about the other Alita. But it is interesting that we get this warm fuzzy feeling seeing that image of so many of the past characters cheering on for that Alita and forgetting, at least I forgot, that Alita ain't even the Alita that they're expected to cheer on. So yes, the real Alita didn't win the Zot championship, and the people who cheered for that Alita wasn't even that Alita. Okay, so number 10. And this is actually a forward thing that goes beyond Last Order, but I think that I could keep this spoiler free with regards to Mars Chronicle, because we saw certain images at the end of Last Order. Basically, we saw a parting of ways. The real Alita went back down to Earth to live with Figure 4. The other Alita went to Mars. And as it's pretty well known, so I don't think it's a spoiler, Mars Chronicle is a 2-section story. One about the past of Alita as Yoko, and the other one about the current Alita's actions going on. And the only thing I will say that may be a little bit of a spoiler is it will be a closure. What happened in the past will be closed by what happens currently. At least that is the prediction. Well, number 10, Mars Chronicle is a disjointed story. Because as much as a lot of the story of Mars Chronicle is set up by Alita's past as Yoko, that is the real Alita, or the real Yoko. Right? All of that that's going on is being experienced and actually was done by the real Alita. And then, of course, she gets lost in the junkyard. The current Alita that's in Mars, trying to get closure from what happened in the past, is the other Alita. And so there is no closure because of the fact that they're two completely different people going about this. What you see in the past to what you see in the present are done by two completely different people. And sometimes we forget this because we see the past and the present, and because they are both Alitas, we keep on forgetting that they are two different people. We think, oh, there's the young Alita, and now Alita has come back to resolve everything. Well, it's not Alita. It's not the real Alita. It's another Alita that has come back. And of course, even the characters, unless they learned about the situation of what happened with Last Order, so there may be a few characters that may know about it, a good majority of them do not. So when Erica confronts Alita, as you would expect to do, because Alita went to Mars to meet with Erica, so all of this is still within Last Order's predictions, she will have no idea that she's talking to a stranger. And so, it's a very interesting story in that it's disjointed. You could go through the entire Mars Chronicle story and never come to the understanding that these are two completely different people. And it may not even matter because of the fact that whatever happens in the story happens as the Mars Chronicle story, which I don't want to go into due to spoilers. But I think from the end of Last Order, knowing that the original Alita, which started the past of Mars Chronicle, went back to Earth, and a different Alita went to Mars, it's basically a two disjointed story. Okay, so those are my 10 points for the real Alita in Last Order. And I think there are many more, so if you come up with your ideas, please put them in the comments section below. I would like to hear from your perspective with regards to how you feel about the story, knowing that there are two Alitas now, and how there is a break between the past and the present and the future with regards to the Alita adventure. Anyway, I'll continue on with more Alita Battle Angel Alita Ganmu videos in the future. I hope you join me at that time. And until the next episode, happy manga reading, happy movie watching, and as always, Jaya, everyone.